Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women Talking Money podcast. My name is Gretchen from Magenta Financial Planning, and today I'm joined by Amanda Ford from the Financial Planning Club. Amanda has over 20 years of experience in financial services, much of which was spent in senior leadership roles at the Tenet Group. So now she's the co-founder of the Financial Planning Club, and Amanda continues to champion the financial advice profession. She is passionate about empowering financial advisors and business owners to run a successful practice and making positive change across the profession. So welcome, Amanda, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Gretchen. That intro just got my heart a little bit warm this morning, so that was nice. Thank you.
Oh, that's good. And is there anything you want to add to it so that the people listening know, what you're up to at the Financial Planning Club and how they can kind of find you guys as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So loads going on. New business launched last year. 3 co-founders with a lot of experience, a lot of different experience coming together between me, myself, Lewis and Lee. And we're just loving the gratification we get with the business owners that we're working with and the community that we've got for lots of different parts of financial services, whether you're a paraplanner, operations manager, IFA, mortgage broker, we've got a community. And then we work closer with business owners around their business. And it's just that time, Gretchen, and you'll understand it, taking people out from working in the business to work on the business. And that's really nice to see the benefits that people are achieving from that. So we've, as any new business, we've learned a lot in that first quarter. We tested some things and we're putting the gas on some things now. A big shift for me going from a corporate job to a business owner. So that's every day's crazy. But yeah, we're up to lots. We're just planning our next face-to-face event as well, which we're really looking forward to. And that'll be in May.
Fabulous. So yeah, you'll have to start adopting the language that I use, which is when everyone goes, so how are things? And I feel like going, I'm so stressed. It's really crazy. I just say life is full.
I had friends ask me last night, how's it going? And it's funny because they go, how's it going in your job? And you sort of want to go, oh, it's way more than a job. It's way more than a job. How's it going in your job? And you sort of go, yeah, it's going great. And I sort of go, we've got customers, we've got socials going on, we've got webinar, podcasts, we've got sponsors. And I sort of feel like am I trying to validate myself a little bit? But it's an interesting question in those early days, as you say, when somebody's asking, how's it going?
Juggling a lot.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time out to talk to me today, then, even more so, because I know what that's like in those early days. So we're here to talk about money. It's the season 3. You're the second person in season 3. And I think the more and more I do it, the more I realise that I started it because I just don't think we talk enough about money. And then I still have concluded, even as I approach season 3, we're still not talking enough about money because everyone I talk to still, got those things where we don't. Although I would say, I think because you're in the profession and the kind of the repeated thing I see now is actually if you are in the profession, you're that bit more comfortable talking about money and therefore probably so too in an extended world of talking to family and things like that, just because it's very natural for us because that's what we do, day in, day out. So it's always good to have such a range of people on this podcast. So I talk to some people from financial planning world and then an awful lot of people not. And it really is quite dramatic, the difference in what the conversations are. So yeah, I look forward to this.
Yeah, me too. And I think you're absolutely spot on, and I'm absolutely sure it'll come out in my story of my history with money, around how we're very British when it comes to money, and we don't talk about it enough or openly, and that for me cultivates problems.
Okay, well let's get into it. So tell me, Amanda, what's your kind of earliest memory of money, and how do you think it has shaped your views? Today and in now your adult life?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of work on this, Gretchen, sort of looking back through my history with money, my family upbringing. My dad's an accountant by trade, worked at the same place from 16 to 70. And I grew up in a family where I didn't want for nothing. I was very lucky. We had a holiday home in Spain from the age of 4 when I went there twice a year for prolonged periods of time. But money wasn't talked about. So money was never a conversation. So my association with money, I still have this now, and it's something I'm always working on, is the harder you work, you can have that lifestyle. So I had the lifestyle of not wanting for anything, having those holidays, having a lovely house. We moved into a different house, and I never remember money being discussed. And from 14, I went out to work. I worked with my sister. That was interesting. I worked for my sister in a restaurant, but I was paid cash by my dad. So he must have done some invoicing somewhere, because I'm sure I probably wasn't of age to be working. I had a part-time job from a really, really young age. So my association is you work hard for the money. Where it went awry for me was I never matched the numbers. So I never went, this amount's coming in, so this amount can go out. So I've done the debt cycle a couple of times. I took a student loan out even when I was living at home. And if I remember, most of that went on a Dorothy Perkins card as well, which is just even scarier. So I've just never bridged the two. I just saw working hard meant I could have a certain lifestyle.
That's really interesting, isn't it? So the kind of messaging was quite clear, but then there wasn't any words kind of alongside it to give you the skills to be able to kind of take that forward,
Yeah.
maybe into your
Yeah, or that monitoring. So that saying, this is your wage that's coming in. What are you then going to do with it? And I think that stems to the not talking about it. And I suppose you talked earlier about financial advice profession, and you do talk about money because you talk about how much people have got and what they want to do with it. In an accountancy world, it's quite closed doors, it's quite private. And I do wonder how much that influenced my family not talking about it. I always remember as well, my mum just signing checks. So my mum was lucky enough not to work for most of my childhood, but dad would always rock up on an evening with a checkbook and those carbon pieces of paper and just say, sign the checks. And I, no concept of what was going on there at all.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? And I do think, I'm sure that people, when we think about the accountancy profession, so much of accountancy, the reality is a lot of it is looking backwards, because we're looking at what happened last year in the accounts and signing those off and getting them approved. And especially, I would say, in a kind of many, many years ago, when now we do have hopefully a more proactive accountancy kind of market. But I think, maybe that's just, even though it was kind of known, it just wasn't shared, or things just like, oh well, we do it like this because we've always done it like this. There's always a repeat as well of those things. Yeah. So tell me then, you mentioned about Dorothy Perkins card or the debt cycle, like what do you feel helped you break that cycle and learn enough
That's the
to not,
question. Have I
or
actually
have you?
broken it? That's the
Yeah.
$1 million question, isn't it? So I've actually done the debt cycle in respect of I've become debt free, and then I've gone back into debt. And funnily enough, it's not funny. I went back into debt an exact same number. And there's some science behind going back into that, mentally going back into that number. A bit like people have got limitations on what they think they can earn. There's actually some brain work around going back to that number. So I am not out of that cycle, Gretchen, but I am working super hard. And I feel like I'm in a very different mentality to it now, and how I manage it. Getting rid of the debt for me is front and centre on my money journey right now, for a few different reasons. When my husband left me and my little boy, he was 9 months old at the time, I couldn't afford to put food on the table at that point, and I promised myself I would never ever be beholden to somebody else financially again. And that's where my career at Tenet progressed massively, and where I really pushed for the next role and the next salary. And I'm on my own now, and but I've got it in control now, so I know I'm just got a super spreadsheet that tells me everything that's coming in, everything that's going out. So I think I've just learned from that first cycle. I'm like, oh my God, how have you ended up back here again? You can't do it again. Is sort of where I'm at the minute, and putting the things in place to make sure that doesn't happen. But
I
then
mean,
then you lose your job halfway through last year, and it throws a tiny spanner in the works.
it's going to say, so just if you don't have to share details, but just share a little bit more. So of what that means. So do you mean that you've had to take out debt that other than a mortgage, or other than so what we
Yes,
would naturally say maybe are deemed a little bit of bad debt because you've not had the resources to be able to plug that in any other way.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's credit cards, and the loan to clear off the credit card, and then the credit cards have topped up, and that's where my imbalance of what's coming in versus what's going out. I'm unfortunately a lover of a fantastic holiday, and I've gone, oh, I've worked really hard, so I'll book that holiday, and then it's just like, no, got to break that cycle. And that sort of, this is the first year, I think, learning what I learned last year with, anything can happen and your life can sort of change quite quickly. It's the first year I've gone into the year without having at least one holiday booked, despite me trying. I've done a few Google searches, and then I've slapped myself on the wrist.
It's about that sort of, I think quite often, and I think everyone has it. It's like that compulsive control, isn't it? Like, can you? Everything's now so 20 years ago, you wouldn't have been looking on your phone in the evening when you're feeling, a gloomy day in January to worry about whether you're going to book a holiday, because you wouldn't have been able to do it in that way. You would have had to have gone to a travel agent and booked it, and you can't do that at 7 p.m. on your own on the sofa, can you? So we've got to apply such levels of control
Yep,
now
yep.
over ourselves if we want to remain accountable to what we've set as our goals. And I think that's a very different thing to how it used to be.
There is a direct correlation between my social media usage and my what I call flippant spend, where it's not a needs spend. It's incredible. And I think I've looked into that as well. What is that about? What am I trying to fulfill that I'm not getting somewhere else? You've also just used my favourite word around accountability, and how you hold yourself accountable to do what you said you did, and how it feeds into those goals as well.
I had a really interesting conversation with someone in a different situation, not about this podcast, but on something else I was doing around that dopamine hit, from buying things and that instant
Yeah,
gratification, and like trying to reframe what that dopamine is, trying to make it about, actually, do you know what, I have gone without this holiday, but actually it means I've managed to achieve this, and that should be like a massive, and how we can
yeah.
reframe that so that that's really relevant here as well.
It's the bigger picture, isn't it? The dopamine hit is right there in the moment, ticking a box, fulfilling it, but it's so quick. It's about thinking, if I don't do that, how much of the debt would be gone, or what impact will it make, and then what's the impact of not having that debt in the future. So yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, when you think about it, the association and how we do stuff for that instant hit. And I think that's getting, like you said, that's getting easier to do now than it
We
than
just
it
become
used to
addicted
be.
to it, and it's
Yeah,
addictive, and
yeah,
we've become addicted to it. And strange, like some of my older clients, okay, you can tell that they get that hit by having what we would call like a squirrel account or something. So they'll be like, oh, well, I'll be like, so what's gone on this year? And they'll be like, oh, well, I do have a little bit more in my squirrel account. And I'm not joking, have a conversation quite a few times. You can tell that that's where their hit came from. And our whole societal thing of that has changed, because they were from the age where that was what was the goal, was to like save
yeah,
because they wanted to have a better life. And now that's not as, they just didn't have all of the kind of things that get thrown at us now, so they
yeah.
got it in a different way. So I think that's really fascinating to kind of think about. Maybe that's what we've got to have. I know I'll have it in my head when I'm scrolling through Instagram at 8 o'clock at night, and it's telling me that I want I need
You need
these
these things, and
these
you've seen it
things.
10 times So
Yes.
somebody's telling you
Someone
need
must
it.
be telling me I need this, or
I
in
sometimes do
duplicate.
the basket drop. So I'll sometimes put it in the basket and then I'll step away from it. And then if I go back, it's either got out of stock or I go, oh, I'm not needing that hit right now. So it disappears. Picking up on what you just said, I think there's some societal issues from like the banks and stuff, because it always blows me away how much more credit I keep getting offered despite the amount I might have. I do like the fact now you do get asked permission to increase your balance, and you get the opportunity to say no, but it does amaze me how much is still being offered to people who have already got a chunk. And my circumstances have changed, so I could have easily lent into some of that and got in a very difficult situation.
Yeah. And I think I always remember having the conversation with when I first set up my business here, was like I was trying to move and I had to, it was difficult because I got like self-employed accounts that I hadn't had before, or, rather than being an employed role. And I always remember I had to go to a very specialist lender to be able to get that through. And them saying to me, how much have you got ability to borrow on a credit card? Like, how much are your credit limits? Because that would also impact then, because I could go and spend all that and be in that much
Yeah.
debt tomorrow. And that impacted how willing they were to like give me a mortgage. So I just think, think about those things. As you say, like every time every time a bank says, oh, would you like another £1,000 on that credit? Do you need it? And if you don't need it, don't take it. Because in the
Yeah.
future, it could mean that, you're having to disclose that somewhere else and you just don't know the knock-on effect to things. So,
Absolutely. It's interesting you mentioned mortgage. That was the first thing that unsettled me, was my rates due up in November this year. My situation's going to be very different. I've had a call with the mortgage advisor now. He's put me a little bit at ease. We'll likely just stay in the same place. But yeah, it threw me a little bit of a curveball. That's my control bit, I think, wanting to know that would be okay.
yeah, and everyone's concerned about it at the moment, but even more so if you've gone from employed to self-employed, it's
Yeah.
quite a big change. And yeah, if you've already got a provider, probably wouldn't, wait till next time and have a conversation about it
Stay
next
put.
time. Yeah. Okay, so I think we talked about obviously the debt a little bit, but how would you describe then your current relationship with money?
It's probably that control, Gretchen. So I've definitely stepped into this year as just controlling it, knowing what I want to pay off the debt, what that'll look like at the end of the year, what that could mean in 2 years for us. And I know you'd like to talk about sort of financial freedom and what that means. And that's it for me. It's that if I have no debt, mortgage aside, I'm quite
Yeah.
comfortable to have that, but no other that bad debt were the credit cards, the store cards hanging over me.
Mm.
So I'm doing things to try and control spending, as in how much is going out. I've done the whole subscription run where you run through what you're paying out. I've done a bit of a combination on my gas and electric to see what I can make better. So I've just sort of stepped into this year making those improvements, but now it's about sticking to that and not going, sod it, I've worked really hard, I deserve a holiday, which is where I could slip into. And I've got a 12-year-old that's now wanting to take a little bit control of his own money, and asked if I could get him a Fire Stick for his bedroom. I was like, yeah, you can buy it out of your pocket money. You try to set good examples there as well, aren't you? Because they're watching and they see what goes on, and I'll talk to him about what we do for holidays if we do something, and if not, why not, so that he understands.
I think it's amazing how you can, I'm sure you will go on holiday, but it will be a different type of holiday, and it will be
Yeah,
maybe something that, someone said, well, why not come here or go there,
yeah,
or, rather than something that, physically has to cost a lot of money. And it's short term. That's the thing,
it
isn't it?
is.
Short term
It
pain
is.
for that longer term
And that's what you've got
gain,
to
really.
focus on. It's the same with any goal. If you want to exercise or you want to lose it, you've got to look at the end game to know what you're working towards and what those choices or decisions you make along the way are gonna mean at the end. I was laughing in my side then as you said something about go on a different holiday, somebody might invite you. I did a podcast last week with somebody about accountability, and I mentioned about wanting to go wild swimming, and I got 3 offers for people wanting to go wild swimming with me. So if anybody wants to offer us a holiday, I'm open.
Yeah, or knows of a really great deal that,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so that's the thing, isn't it? It doesn't have to be, but you never know who knows someone. Who knows
That's
someone who's
it.
got
Yeah.
a free property somewhere?
Careful what you put out there.
Yeah. But and do you think that your kind of what role do you think money has played with like your career choices? So we talked a little bit about that period of time after your husband left and building up that professional role at Tenet and obviously with the aim to make more money.
Yeah.
So, do you think that money, has played a role generally in a lot of the decisions that you've made career wise?
100%. That journey at Tenet was all about, the title first of all. I went in as a 3-day-week administrator. I left as an executive director, and I said, I had a goal about being a director by the time I'm 40, and 39 and 6 months this opportunity appeared. But it was definitely associated for me, not only the title and the role, but the finances that went alongside that, because I think I was associating so much of my success was around what I was earning. But I think when you go through a redundancy where that's sort of whipped away, and if I think about the last 18 months at Tenet, it was full on, it was really stressful. You just think about things slightly different when you step into whatever you step into next, because you go, do I want to be working as hard as that for that money, or is there another way I can do this where there's some balance between the finances that are coming in and loving the job that you're doing? But in that role, I definitely associated it with status and finances.
It's really interesting because I think I resonate with that. I spent an awful lot of time just, it was about drive. How can I get to that point? And then you're at that point and you're like, hang on a second, how could this be better? But I think a lot of that is also changing. Like, I'm not sure how you feel about it. Like, reflecting on maybe younger colleagues you have at Tenet or people you come across in the journey now with the Financial Planning Club. But I do think that, money is becoming less associated. I mean, money's still really important. We've all got to pay all of those things. It makes makes the world go round as such. But it certainly seems to be less of a priority in shaping like choices and opportunities for like the generation below us, and definitely for like I always get confused about whether they're Gen Z or Gen whatever they are, but in
My
their
son thinks I'm a
20s.
Yeah, so I had to
Yeah,
explain I
exactly.
definitely wasn't the other day.
No, exactly. But yeah, probably millennial, and that age is very different from my Gen X.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, in particular in the employed space, I think people are more looking at culture and the work life harmony, as I like to call it, rather than balance. And then the perks, what comes with the job. There isn't a conversation I don't have with a business that's got a team that isn't about hybrid, remote office working, and we know that's impacting the recruitment space a little bit. But I agree. I think it's not front and centre, the money side, as much as it used to be. Where do you think that comes from? I don't know. Where's that shift happened?
I mean, again, I'm going to just blame social media, but I mean, I don't mean blame it in the sense of I don't think that this is wrong. I think it's a good shift. I
Yeah, I
think it would
agree.
be, really nice if I relived my 20s and early 30s where I wasn't like completely hung up on how much money it was that I made. But I do think maybe it is a little bit of social media because there's definitely this vibe of like, you can have everything.
Mm.
But I'm not one of those that you can have everything without certain things. But that's definitely the vibe that kind of comes across.
Yeah. And people are looking for a different, social media being an example, people are looking for a different way of working, aren't they? And different ways to earn money. I don't think there isn't a day goes by I don't see something about digital marketing or the influencers that have come from nothing that are now making lots and lots of money. My son has currently got me addicted to the Beast Games game show, and that's really interesting, actually. Not only the amount of money that he's giving away in his journey, but how people react to where they get offered a certain amount of money to step away from another amount of money, and the choices they are making. If you're not watching that, Gretchen, I think that'd be a worthwhile.
I definitely need to, yeah. I mean, it sort of sounds like Deal or No Deal, doesn't it?
It's a little bit like that, but you've got 500 people involved, and
I see.
they sometimes make choices that impact a whole row of other people. So you see some really interesting behaviours.
Mm.
So yeah, how did we end up there? Social media.
Well, it is about money, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, how are you finding, I guess, the balance that you're trying to walk this very difficult tightrope now between repaying your debt and trying to think about putting money aside, for the future at the moment? How are you approaching that balance?
There isn't any, if I'm honest. It's all focused on the debt. So anything I'm not putting, apart from my son and his ISA and his savings and, then general pocket money, which is obviously just normal spend, I'm focused 100% on getting rid of the debt. So it's either going on bills, food, or the debt. Because in my head, that amplifies that quicker. Might be naive to think that nothing is going to go wrong again in the next 12 months. I'm very lucky, with my dad has helped me out last year in the redundancy to start in the business period. Yeah, I think if I could get that debt, it'd be my peace of mind more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably the wrong way of thinking about it. It's working for me.
I think, well, you'll feel financial. You mentioned earlier about financial freedom, but that's going to be a big tick, isn't it, for you?
Huge. Yeah, huge. That not thinking about it or worrying about it or having it hanging over my head is definitely. But then my plan is, as soon as that switches and that's gone, that then it's, if I've been paying so much onto debt, then I've got an opportunity to switch that to savings. So there comes the discipline, doesn't it?
Yeah, the discipline still needs to exist.
Yeah, it does. Just go into a different pot.
Yeah. But okay, so if you could give some advice to like your younger self about financial advice, what would that be?
Goes back to where I said it went wrong for me. It's marrying the two up. Look at what you've got coming in versus what you've got going out. And there's so much more ways you can do that now as well. I mean, how many these apps that they've got, some bank accounts are really good at it as well. So I think it is easier for people. Yeah, marrying the two, and probably not associating so much success with what's coming in the bank every month. There's other ways you can get joy and success. It's not all down to the money. It's important, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many ways that you can think about like marrying up, as you said, that income and expenditure. And what I think is quite a nice way of thinking about it is like maybe setting like a rule like that you have to adopt. So what is for like we talked a little bit about those needs that you're having to pay, like those bills and things like that, and then having a percentage that has got to be on that, and a percentage that's for the wants and things like your holidays, and then have a percentage for your savings, and that you set that, and the same happens every single month, because I think we're creatures of habit, and we can become the more habitually we do those things, the easier they are. Like you said, it's just harder getting going at the start.
And I know Lewis has been on and he does exactly that. I probably just do it down to the pounds and pence right now. I've probably never worked it out as a percentage. It's all down to exact pounds and pence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just as a starting point way to however you want to do it. There's not, I guess there's no right or wrong, but you just need to do it. You need to marry it up at some point before it goes wrong.
You do. Yeah, and don't accept everything that comes your way, credit-wise.
Yeah. So we'll finish with this question then, because we've talked a little bit about financial freedom quite a lot today. So I won't do that question. If then money was no object, how would your life look different, if at all, now?
I was always the one, and I think I still am, that, if I won the lottery, money was no object, I'd still work. I don't think I could not work. How much I'd work would probably be the question. I would, obviously, I have to say I'd go on at least 4 holidays because I've talked so much about holidays. I'd be giving back to my mum and dad because they've bailed me out a couple of times. So that I've got this dream of paying for them to go on a cruise at some point in their lifetime. And then I definitely have got a passion about giving back somewhere else, whether that's charity. And I'm trying to do it now where it's not money focused, but if money was no object, I'd definitely do it money focused. So yeah, did that. That felt like my priority order.
Excellent.
I started with the job though. That wasn't right, was it?
I would still work.
I would still work.
Just reassuring people, I would still work.
As Leah Lewis listen to this and go, she's not buying a lottery ticket anymore.
Yeah, exactly. She would still work. Okay, it's okay.
That shows my association with working though, doesn't it? And how important I think that is. And I think we see that with IFA business owners who want to leave their practice and sell it. 9 times out of 10, they don't want to do it because they don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what they're going to do with themselves next. So they haven't thought of that bigger picture. So I probably haven't thought of the money is no object bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so as we wrap up, could you leave, us with maybe your thoughts about what one thing you'd want every woman to know or think differently about when it comes to money?
Know your numbers. Know your numbers. I think there's a lot of ladies out there that don't know what's going on in their own household. So yeah, know your numbers.
I love that. Yeah. And it concludes everything very nicely because that's what we've been talking about for most of the time. And so where can people find out a little bit more about the Financial Planning Club, or where's best to follow you on all these various social media things that we do now?
Yes, so our main ones we are on Instagram or LinkedIn. So LinkedIn as the Financial Planning Club, or you can find Amanda Ford. And I have just launched my newsletter, which is that exciting publish. You hit publish last week. Thrive as an IFA. And so yeah, that's all over on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I hope you have as well.
Too. Yeah, thanks, Gretchen. Much appreciated.